Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. My name is Suprnovaz and in this video I am going to be showing you how to beat Sekiro Shadows Die Twice without getting hit in roughly under 40 minutes. This particular run is an unsubmitted hitless run that I got on stream a while back. This beats the game in 37 minutes and 32 seconds. If this is your first time here, and you haven't checked out my first guide on Sekiro Hitless, I would strongly encourage that you check that guide out first before you come back and look at this one. A lot of what I'm going to be covering is kind of the same stuff that I covered more in depth over on that guide, so there are some things that I might gloss over, just assuming that it's common knowledge. This guide in a way serves as a more advanced level addendum to the beginner level guide, in that this is effectively the same run with a lot of the same strategies, but we're stripping away some layers and just overall taking this a lot faster. To reiterate the rules for a hitless run, a hit is considered any form of damage or stagger that is caused by an enemy or a trap triggered by the player. In Sekiro, a hit is also extended to blocked attacks as opposed to deflecting attacks. Any kind of black screen fall, so falling into an abyss or falling from a great height, that causes a black screen upon landing, that also counts as a hit. And then a couple of other attacks that do chip damage even if you deflect them, since they come from enemies, they would technically count as hits, and we'll kind of go over those as we go along. As far as speedrunning rules, it's more or less the same as the glitchless speedrun rules. There's a couple of different things that are allowed in a hitless run that aren't allowed in a glitchless speedrun, and again, I can point those out kind of as we go along. So the way that we're going to start this run is we are just going to jump out of the well. The reason why we do this is for two reasons. For one, it's faster to jump instead of walk. The other reason is it makes it a little harder for these gunmen to hit us, because we are not going to stealth through here. We're just going to hop along to the Moonrise Tower. These gunmen can still hit you. It's basically completely random. Just some runs they will decide that you don't get to start one, and they will just hit you. And once we get in here, there's a few things that I will briefly mention. So first things first, just a little speed run quirk that can cause you time loss at complete random. Sometimes Kuro will be facing Sekiro when you enter the tower. Sometimes Kuro will be facing away at the door. And when you go to talk with Kuro, he has to turn around in order to talk with you. So that can just be a random time loss, just depending on the run. Another thing that you're also going to see, I don't think this is the same for my beginner level guide, is that I'm not playing with any subtitles. So what I just did is, once I got the healing gourd from Kuro, I was able to hit the menu button to cancel out the dialogue, and now I will be able to run to the secret passage and whistle for Kuro. If you have subtitles on, normally you would have to go through all of Kuro's dialogue and have him tell you to meet him at the secret passage with the whistle, yada yada yada. It's a lot of yapping. But with the subtitles turned off, we get to skip a lot of dialogue, and this will be the same throughout the run, basically. So yeah, turn the subtitles off. And then here, this is a little hitless thing. You can't do this in glitchless speedruns because it's considered an unintentional grapple, but what you're able to do here is by hanging off of this ledge, if you input the prosthetic tool button and the grapple button at the same time and have them basically activate on the same frame, you're able to grapple over here. Again, it's a neat little thing to know. It's not allowed in glitchless, but you can do it in hitless runs. And then as far as the rest of the tutorial, this is basically just the same. You just run past all these guys, and they should never hit you. And again, I kind of mentioned this in the last guide. Pick up your Fistful of Ash, where you know where to find them, because we are going to need them for this run. A little bit of parkour. Here I crouch because it makes it more consistent to whistle. Sometimes you'll get here and you'll hit the button and it won't go off. But if you crouch, it makes that a little more consistent. And then we are at Tutorial Genichiro, which if you're on a glitchless speedrun, you can just take the hit here and move along, but if you're doing hitless, you have to beat him, because there is no way to script the death without taking damage here. Not a whole lot more to say about this fight that I haven't covered in my last guide. This is kind of the main difference, is I take advantage more of the dead angles here. So what I'm going to do is, whenever he does a thrust or a jump slam, I will try to go for these dead angles. So I start by attacking behind him at an angle, do 2 hits, still kind of look a little away because he's turning to face you here, so he can still block your attacks if you don't angle this properly. And then you're able to get up to like 4 hits on these dead angles. So you get much bigger punishes. You can see like he's almost already half health off of that one thrust interaction. But other than that, you just keep up the pressure, keep up the rhythm. That was floating passage he was about to do, and I get the death blow off of it. Off of this, try for more dead angles. Thrust on his sweeps. I'm also unlock dashing a lot. Kind of what I mentioned with the chained ogre last time is forward dash gives you more iframes. So it makes it a little more consistent to avoid this stuff. And just like that, Genichiro is dead. So here what I'm doing is picking up the Litecoin purse. We're not actually going to pick up any other coin purses in this area. This is not going to be used for firecrackers. So one of the things that I do here is, normally when I'm on these ledges, I will do like a little side jump here. I'm pretty sure this is a little faster than the normal get up from these ledges. Then coming up here, I do this little hook jump. So this timing can be a little tricky. But basically what you do is you watch Sekiro run over this hook, and then you're able to time a jump to land on this branch over here. And again, I'm pretty sure this is like a small speed optimization compared to either jumping for the grapple or falling off this ledge for the grapple. The thing with grappling is your momentum is very briefly suspended, whereas this will just continue to carry your momentum forward. This is a straightforward run. We skip the Akko in the cave. Grapple onto this gate. Run on top of this hill. Across this other gate. Then here we're going to take a big jump. We're able to grapple to this branch and pick up the gotchin here. And then there's this little jump. So for this jump, your goal is you want to try to grapple up here. You can't jump straight forward because you get grapple locked here for some reason. So you have to jump a little bit to the left in order to reach this consistently. Then we grapple to the stables here. I am going to menu for my gotchin and my homeward idol in the last slot. We're just going to gotchin and go for chained ogre. Chained ogre here is not going to be very much different. I feel like I'm going to sound like a broken record saying that. Just keep your camera unlocked because your forward dashes help to avoid his grabs. This is just same old chained ogre, but you do it fast. And there I was able to get the stagger before he even gets a chance to move again. That's the quick grab. One of his more dangerous attacks. Here, I don't know how I got hit. How I didn't get hit here. I was trying to parry this. Because that, I'm pretty sure, would have sent his posture meter over. And also while I'm paused here, whenever you do death blows on Ogre, you always want a death blow from the back, because this animation finishes faster than if you were to get the death blow from the front. Here we just run straight through the courtyard. If you do this fast enough, you still have gotchin to just run through here. And most of these guys, obviously there's a few that are going to see you, but they're not going to see you early enough to be able to do anything. Jump to land on this tree branch. You can fall all the way down. It is slower if you fall all the way down. Here, what I'm going to do, you might be able to tell what I'm aiming for. I'm not aiming to grapple here, because again, this suspends your momentum. Instead, I want to land here, if you can see at the bottom of my play button. This little lip in the cliff. When you do this, one of two things is going to happen. Either the snake is not going to attack, and you just get a straight run through the cave, or the snake will attack on some occasions. And if he does, you just run along this wall until he's done. Either way, I'm pretty sure this is faster than grappling over. And then we are at the shimmy wall. Coming up to the pelican skip, which I showed in my last guide. It looks scary, but it's actually super consistent. I dismount with a jump, run to the right of the pelican, then run to the left. This little crevice. And then you just grapple your way into the cave. And pretty much if you do this fast enough, there's no way that the snake can hit you here. Gonna do 3 grapples. We're not going all the way up to the idol. We're just gonna pick up the Sako. And then here what I do is I wait for this guy to walk into his position, and then I'm just gonna like get up on the left of him and he won't see me. And then what I want in here is the heavy coin purse. And then we're on to Gyoubu. This guy I probably didn't have to kill. You could have probably just grappled up to the tower or up to the wall. Here I menu for Akko and I menu for Fistful of Ash. And I will pause here real quick. So obviously we're not doing this with firecrackers. The best way to explain this fight is you don't really get to control Gyoubu the same way that you can control like Isshin. Like as difficult as Isshin is in this run, you can still kind of like narrow his moveset to like a specific set of options that he has, and then you can flowchart your response to those options. Gyoubu, you can't really do that. You get 6 free hits, and then the rest of the fight, you're kind of just at the mercy of his moveset. So being able to do this fight without firecrackers means you have to really know his moveset. And also on that note, there's a bunch of different variations. Like every runner does this differently, because there's so many different ways that you can do this fight. But I'll show you how I like to do this. So I get Akko ready. This is 6 free hits. And then I immediately start chasing him after I get the 6 free hits, and he starts running. So his first attack, it'll always be either a single slash, which he does here. He'll just like slash on his right, and you could get a running parry on this. The other move he can do is his canoe combo. This is the one where he is charging and he like swings on either side of him like 4 times. It's like 2 times each on each side. He ends up doing it later, and I'll point that out. The way that you deal with that attack, if you're playing this aggressive, is you aim to parry his second swing, which just stops the combo if you get it. Just play very aggressive. This move, he has a couple of combos like this, where he does one hit, like this uppercut, and then he has a second hit that's a lot more delayed. He has another one where he'll like spin around for a slash, and then he'll delay another stab. I believe in second phase he has like a 2-jump, 2 ground stabs combo that he can do. Usually in Hitless, I will parry the first hit and just get around to his other side to avoid the second hit. And I do this for 2 reasons. For one, it avoids the delay. If you're not cozy with the delay, which sometimes I'm not, sometimes I miss it. The other reason is even if you do get the timing right, if you're not in the right position, he can actually dead angle with these kind of ground stabs because the hitbox can hit behind you. So even if you time it correctly, you still end up getting hit. Also, technically for speedrunning, you want to parry everything, because it's faster. But this is just me doing, like, my consistent Gyoubu, just the way that I know how to fight him. Try to go for a headshot here, and headshots do more damage if you can actually hit Gyoubu on his horse. Didn't get there. Another quick thing to mention here. Normally for speedruns, you kind of want to, whenever you get the death blow on Gyoubu, you want to try to get him to face this fog wall. Because this is where we're going to go next. So if you can finish the fight somewhere over here, you end up saving a lot of time. This is another one of the challenges of trying to speedrun the Gyoubu fight is sometimes you end up somewhere over here and you have to run all the way across to get to Tengu. In this case, I ended up finishing on the parry, so I kind of just got locked into him facing one direction, so... And then for phase 2, it's just more of the same. Whenever he Tokyo drifts, just grapple in. You don't ever want to give him distance, especially if he's going to gain distance and try to face you. Here, this ends up working out. He doesn't go for either his canoe or his single slash, but he runs towards the fog wall. And then takes an abnormally long amount of time to drift. That's the canoe combo I was talking about. That was him. He was about to swish his spear from side to side. I parried the second hit and was able to stop his combo entirely. And in spite of not getting the first death blow to face the fog wall, he still ended up near the fog wall, so saves up some time. And so here what we're going to do is we're going to talk with Tengu and refuse his quest. This means that we are not going to be able to get carp skills for this run. But ultimately, this is faster than trying to do the quest where you kill the assassin for the Ashina esoteric text. And you don't necessarily need carp skills for this run. But either way, you have to talk with Tengu in order to progress the game. Here we actually buy firecrackers. This is what the heavy coin purse was for. Firecrackers we're not going to actually put the tool in until after Genichiro, because we're not going to need it until then. But you're able to pick it up there. So here we grab the idol, increase attack power. The run to bull is pretty straightforward. You can run up here. This guy you can avoid if you want. On very rare occasions, he can hit you if you choose to avoid him. But you can also just kill him like that. Here we run along the wall. Double jump to this little cliff to pick up 2 Akko. And then we could just run through this field. None of these guys can hit you. You just keep running. Up here, you want to jump this corner with the 2 guards. If you just try to run past them, they can get inside the bull arena. And they can kind of screw up this fight. And then this is just bull, but fast. Also, you can't parry in Hitless because the bull headbutts do fire damage. But I do put a lot of emphasis on trying to go for the headshots because they do more damage. It also staggers bull faster. Now, you usually like to be on his right side when I do that, so that way I can get the lock on. And then when he hits a wall after he's done trampling, if you just double jump against him, then he automatically falls to the ground. You just get a faster death blow that way. Once he's dead, run through the gate. Neither of those two are going to actually do anything. And then this is pretty much the same Ashina Castle as usual. Once you get up here, you want to sneak behind the Nightjar Warrior. There's this guy up here that's going to get suspicious. Whole point of that's just to move him out of the way because he can throw shurikens at you and hit you. So around here, you have the option of grappling up to this partition and going for the frontside skip. I could show a clip of that and also explain kind of how to do it. All right, so this is a little demo on how to do the frontside dojo skip. The way to explain this is the roof has interactable collision, but for some reason, this collision it kind of extends out further than what the roof would lead you to believe. The goal for this skip is we want to sort of interact with this invisible collision and wall jump onto the roof partition above. And so the way that I choose to do this is I try to kind of run in between these two lines up to the shadow. And then once I reach the shadow, I'm just going to stop and let the momentum push me forward. And this puts you like roughly in the position that you want to be in order to attempt this jump. And then what I do is I turn my camera to face the roof. And then I go for this jump. And as I'm kind of doing this, I'm holding back on controller. So I'm holding back. And as I'm interacting with this invisible collision, I'm going to rotate my thumbstick to the left. So that way it faces to the left and then it faces forward to where I actually want to jump onto. I find this the most consistent way to get this sort of backflip. You can also get a wall jump here, and this will also work. But it is more consistent if you can get this backflip because you have some more air to work with. And it looks like that. It saves more time. Also, if you end up hitting it on the first try, it's always consistent. If you miss it a couple of times, you can eventually get shurikened by the Nightjar warriors that are behind you. But yeah, you can usually like safely get up here. You can safely set up a frontside skip, and it ends up saving a bit more time compared to the backside dojo skip, which I do here. Ultimately, like either is fine. Here, I can also pick up the Fistful of Ash here and just grab a safety idol, just in case something happens. And if you do backside skip, I showed this in my beginner guide. Don't worry about the camera. The camera will just turn for you. You can just focus on getting that delayed jump outside the window frame. So here for Genichiro, this will be fun. This is going to be the Genichiro door cheese. So it's going to look simple. It definitely is not. I'm going to try to break this down into like 3 different sections. So I'm going to first show how to set this up. I'm going to show you how to do the cheese. And then I'm going to show kind of the things that you need to look out for, because there's a few different ways that this can screw up. A lot of it is player controlled. So first off, we're going to set this up. So the ultimate goal is we want Genichiro in this corner of the door hinge, and we want to end up on the right side of him. So what we're going to do is we're just going to run to the right. He always does this bow, and it's always going to miss. And then, if you can see like the wooden floor mat here, this line, kind of where this board is coming apart, you want to time 2 attack inputs starting on this line. So we're going to get to that line. I start the first attack, then I attack again into this corner. The reason why you want to do this, if you get here too fast, you end up too far away, so Genichiro can shoot an arrow into your back. So if you can start your attacks here, it makes him more likely to do the attack that we want. And the attack that we want is his double slash, where he like flies at you. So you do 2 hits into this corner, you buffer a dash to the left, and then you can buffer a double jump off of the wall. You can see Genichiro just flew in. And now we have the cheese set up. He's on our left in the door corner, and we are on the right. So just to go back and show this at full speed. That's 1, 2, dash and double jump. And now we are in the cheese. So as far as actually how to do this cheese, there's a couple of different variations. There's a 4-hit variation, there's a 5-hit variation. I've also seen a variation of this where you like guard cancel the first animation, so you only attack him with the first animation, and you just repeat that over and over again. As far as what you want to do here, to actually get these to hit Genichiro's vitality, you want to face the wall at about a 1 o'clock angle. And if you don't understand like the clock directions, if you can think of it as like if you're directly facing the wall, this is 12 o'clock. So facing the wall slightly to the right is about 1 o'clock. You want to face at 1 o'clock for the first 4 hits, and then for the 5th hit, if you end up doing the 5-hit cheese. The 5th hit has to be like turnaround dead angle. So you start the 5th hit at the 1 o'clock, and then you have to time, I would say about like 10, maybe 11 o'clock to the left in order to hit Genichiro with the 5th attack animation. And then you would go back to doing the 1 o'clock dead angles. I recommend, if you are learning this for the first time, to start with the 4-hit variation, which I will also show at the end of this particular fight. But the 4-hit variation, the reason why the 5-hit variation is different, because the 5th animation, I'll actually go through the animations. First animation hits low left with an active hitbox. Second variation starts low left, also hits Genichiro. Third animation, sword starts on the left and goes to his right. Fourth animation, the sword ends on his left. And then this is the 5th animation, which starts above Genichiro's head. So if you were to just hold this angle, you ultimately miss. So for the 4-hit variation, you just do 4 hits, you walk for a split second, and then you start attacking again. And then you just repeat that over and over again until he dies. And also briefly to talk a little bit about how I get this 5th hit. So the way that I do this is, for the first 3 hits, I'm angling my control stick to 1 o'clock, and then for the 4th hit, I will reset it to neutral, and I find that this gives me an easier motion to more easily time the 5th hit dead angle. So here, I'm holding 1 o'clock, still holding 1 o'clock, still holding 1 o'clock. Right about here, I would probably put the control stick to neutral, and then time it. Then back to 1 o'clock, still holding, reset to neutral, then time it. I just find that a lot easier than having to hold the 1 o'clock for the entire time and then try to get a shift over to the left to get this turnaround dead angle. Now, as far as some things to watch out for, there's a few ways where this cheese can die and Genichiro can escape, or you could possibly get hit. The first reason is you attack too close to the 12 o'clock. If this happens, Genichiro might be able to block your attack. And if he does, he's usually able to either counter slash you, or he's able to like squirm out and escape or something with like floating passage. So you don't want to attack too far into, like directly into the wall. The second way that this can screw up is if you attack too far to the right, so like closer to 2 o'clock. And what can happen here is your attacks start to whiff. And again, this will give him either an opportunity to hit you in this corner, or he'll just like slowly walk out, and then you'll lose this cheese. The third way that things can go wrong here, which he ends up doing here, this is something that you always have to pay attention to, regardless of what variation of the cheese you're doing, is this little retreating animation is something he will always try to do. And you need to have a system of kind of having a feel for when he's going to do the arrow flurry, or like the arrow barrage. So like right now, I believe this is the 3rd cycle of 5. So he's below half health. I'd say that's roughly 50% posture. So within these thresholds, whenever he does this retreating, he always does the jump up into the arrow barrage. And whenever he does this, you just dash into the left. And this will avoid the first arrow, which is mainly what's going to hit you if you're right up against him. All these other arrows just miss above you. And then you can go right back to putting him in the corner. The 4th way that this can end poorly is there's a possibility if you try to death blow him from your corner next to the samurai statue that the game will just pop the two of you out of this corner, and now Genichiro is out. So the way that I try to avoid this is I just walk to the side a little bit, and then I death blow him into the corner. And this will never pop him out. And you can just walk back in and do the cheese again. So we'll go back, put all of this into motion. A lot of little nuances that go into this. But if you do it right, you don't ever have to see his first two phases. Makes the fight a lot shorter. And then this is third phase, Genichiro. The main difference here is you may have noticed we did not go back for Mikiri counter. This was intentional because it is faster to get Mikiri counter later after Genichiro. Basically, whenever he does these thrusts, we are not able to Mikiri counter. So at the start, just pop Akko. He'll always do this lunge. You can actually just walk back. I didn't need to dash this. I was safe to just walk back here. And then this is pretty much just the same. Can't jump catch lightning because it's a hit. He ended up doing it 2 times in a row here. So this is a bit of an awkward situation. So normally when he does this, you want to do the normal like dash around him, try and reposition. But because he's in the corner here, there isn't really a great position without giving up my aggression. So I just select to parry this. Then I parry this next slash. I have to parry this. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, this is maybe one of 2 thrust options where he backs immediately out of it. So this, normally I try to like dash forward to get back in an aggressive stance. Here this was a little risky. But it ultimately worked out, and then he lightninged again. I remarked that that was a wild Genichiro. 3 lightnings and then having to parry a thrust combo in the corner. Not the most ideal, but it ultimately worked out. So then here what I'm trying to do, I end up screwing this up. What I just did was I did 6 hits after the first 2 pop-ups. And then I was trying to time a jump, like a wall jump, off of that door. And for some reason, the black screen after skipping the cutscene gets shortened significantly when you do that. It's a little bit faster. To then upgrade attack power, talk with Kuro. Since we don't have the subtitles, this is a lot faster. We can just walk up the stuff, back up to Kuro, just skip all the dialogue, force things to move around a lot faster. Again, if you have the subtitles on, you have to go through all of this dialogue in order to get Kuro to move. So we're done with Kuro, now we're gonna head over to Isshin. This is why we talked with Tengu earlier, because Tengu will move here. Otherwise, you have to go back and talk with him. And then here, we're heading back down to Badger. And this is where we're gonna use the Litecoin burst. So we have been picking up some of the sen from the enemies that we were killing. And with the Litecoin burst, we have enough for 1 Yash sugar. Which is all we're really going to need up until Guardian Ape. We only use this against one boss. By the time we reach Guardian Ape and we need more, we'll have already found them. So after that, we head back to the temple. We're going to talk with the sculptor to get the shinobi text. This has Mikiri counter. This also has mid-air combat arts. And then since we're here, this is where we're going to fit the firecracker prosthetic, which we are going to immediately equip, I believe. Yep. Because we're going to be using this against Armored Warrior coming up shortly. So now we're going to run up to Armored Warrior, and the routing from here is going to be very familiar. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record when I say that this is pretty much the same run as usual, but you just do it faster. I will also say that a lot of kind of like the major tricks and skips come from the first half of the game. Like the Frontside dojo, there's also like the canyon skips, God forbid if you wanted to learn those for this run. That's also like all that stuff. Some of the most difficult portions of this run are in the first half. Once we get into the second half and we have Mortal Draw and we have access to a lot more stuff, it ultimately gets a lot easier, and the levels are also a lot more straightforward. Here we look for the wallfish that never comes. No fish blessing. Once I pull this elevator, I am going to swing 10 times into the wall. This is to time a jump at the very top of the elevator. It gets me running a little bit faster. And then we run through Senpou Temple. A couple of Akko sugars we're going to pick up here. There's also a fistful of ash just before heading into the temple attic. To pass these two guys, that's a fistful of ash. Up here's another Akko. And then we run straight through to the Shugendo Cliffs. And then here, as opposed to taking it slow, we just hit the gas to try to get through here before these guys have a chance to throw any darts at us. Once you get to this enemy, you want to run right up to him before jumping over him, and then you want to make sure you're hugging the right, because he can like immediately throw a dart at you that can possibly hit you. And now we're here to Armored Warrior, which is going to be firecrackers plus 2 hits, and then you throw a fistful of ash, get 3 hits. This will always stagger him, and then as long as you don't get the overhead slam, as long as you parry the next attack, he always does the berserk combo, and then you bring him towards the balcony. Also worth mentioning, just to back this up, this final hit, if you parry this too close, it can break your posture. It doesn't count as a hit, but what I try to do to avoid the posture break is I just back up, and if you have enough space, this tumble animation, which is actually what breaks your posture, because it does posture damage for some godforsaken reason. If you back up far enough, you avoid this animation. And this ultimately is ideal because I want to be able to get some more hits in and stagger him again. Parry the next hit. He's almost about to die, and then we can kick him off. There's also a, like, quote-unquote cheese for this guy where you're able to parry one berserk combo, and he ends up tumbling off the bridge without you needing to kick him off. There's, like, a lineup for this. It is allowed in Hitless. It is not allowed in glitchless. But yeah, that's also just something that can happen on complete accident, which I have had happen before. So here we run along this roof, hug the left, make sure that those assassins don't see you. Grapple our way up here. You can run on this railing. I think it's meant to be faster. Either way, it looks fancy, so I do it. Then you grapple along the left because it avoids all of the enemies in front of the door. And then you could just take the back entrance. And then for full screen monkeys, again, just the same fight as usual, just done pretty quickly. You gotcha before you go in, so that way these monkeys don't see you. Get the invisible monkey behind you. You can just dash backwards and Q and input, it always lands there. Get the orange monkey. You can get behind the green monkey, backstab him. And then you can do those two grapples. If you run in this direction, purple monkey will always land right in front of you. And then jump into the dark attic where you can kill him up here. There are a couple of faster ways of being able to do this fight. This is consistent, and it's also just speedy in general. Like, monkeys usually doesn't take that long anyways. But you can further optimize it if you want. Here we go inside and grab the Mortal Blade. Equip it immediately. And then when I set this idle, I'm going to do the attack power, and then I'm also going to do the skill dump. This is, I'm pretty sure, the only time that I go for skills in this run, and we're mainly going for mid-air combat arts. I also grabbed the Kiri counter at this point, with some of the bosses coming up later on, mainly Isshin and Emma. You definitely want to have Mikiri counter ready for those two. So we come back to Kuro's room, we pick up that gun fort key. And we head off to the fun fort. The funnest forts of them all. So once you get in here, you want to make sure you take a left here, because Tengu is inside that temple and there's a no combat zone, so you end up getting slowed down if you go in there. And then that Fistful of Ash, I'd say is optional. If you're too slow, that gun fort gunman can actually hit you. It's nice to have if you're missing some of the Fistful of Ash from earlier. But it can also be a little risky if you're not fast enough. So we just gotched up on that branch. We're just gonna send it towards this bridge. Grapple up here. So none of the dudes over on the cliff on the left saw me. I believe I wait here just to make sure that this guy can't shoot at me. down on the island that I'm at. Then we hug the left. We jump onto the branch. And the reason why we do that is not so much for the momentum causing us to slow down, but at the same time, it is the momentum causing us to slow down. Sometimes you maybe can get hit grappling as opposed to just landing on the branch, which ultimately is better. So here, the dude from the island that we were just on, he ended up seeing me from all the way over there. I don't know why. Sometimes this just happens when I do gun fort with Gachi. For some reason, I can do this without the Gachi, and this guy doesn't ever re-aggro. But yeah, I just hide under this and make sure that he de-aggros. I'm up to get this guy. I guess he can see you if you try to go up. And then we get this guy at the top. We grab this guy. Him turning around and doing that is always sketchy. I might have only gotten hit maybe once to him doing that. So now this is where we're using our Yash. That's to make this script basically the same as what I showed in my last guide. And that is doing firecrackers, hitting him once, throwing a fistful of ash while he winds up his combo. And then you do jumping mortal draw, which would kill him. Rotate around to the back, jumping mortal draw, firecrackers, jumping mortal draw. And with Yash, this will always kill. And just like that, he's dead. So here we're going to pause just real quick. We end up taking this leap of faith into the pond. If you can see kind of like the leaves, how they're mapped on the water, you can maybe make this out as like an arrow of sorts that points straight into the Riven Cave. So I found that if you land somewhere here, kind of like near the base of that arrow as a reference, you can just swim straight into the cave and the snake is not going to hit you. Like, as long as you see the snake here, he'll attack behind you, then attack once in front of you, and he'll never hit you. You could just keep swimming to the right of the cave. Or I guess to the right of, like, the small island cave there. Into another cave. And then we pick up the sidle. And now what I do here is I jump along the side of this. I think in my last guide I jumped kind of against this little cliff part. But what can happen is sometimes you just don't have enough height to actually reach this. If you jump along the side, you have enough forward momentum to be able to reach this grapple without actually needing to be... without having to land there. And then here I elect to go towards the Guardian Ape Idol. I believe it is technically faster to just take a plunge into the Poison Swamp. There's a couple of grapples there that you can get. One of them is a lot safer. The other one can be a little risky. If you end up missing it, you get black screened, which would count as a hit. But, you know, we're going fast, but we're also going consistent. And so I elect to go for the Ape Idol and just grapple my way down to the swamp. But again, like another consideration for optimizing this if you wanted to. This is the grapple that I was talking about. If you take a leap of faith, you can go for that. Or you could go for the branch above it, which is a lot safer. And now we're in the Serpent's Cave. We're gonna do this little jump into the Serpent Shrine. Again, jump to the left. Make sure you are moving forward enough to reach that grapple hook, and then you can just run in. Easy peasy. Not too bad. Grab the confetti. Now we're in Ashina Depths. On our way to fight the Snake Eye Shirahagi. So we're gonna do you grapple over to the other side to kill this guy because he can see you during the fight. We just get him out of the picture. We're gonna get the backstab on Snake Eyes. We're gonna buff with Akko, and then this is the same Mortal Draw strat, basically. So here, I believe... I'm pretty sure you have to fight her a little bit longer. Normally with Yash, you finish her with like 2 Mortal Draws and a parry. I'm pretty sure I did this technically incorrectly, at least in my head. I think in retrospect, this was probably the right move, because with Akko, you have to fight her a little bit extra anyways. But normally, if you, if she gives you either the quick strike on the right or the grab, so like if she gives you this or the grab, you get Mortal Draw off the parry for free, basically. But if she does the delayed swing on the left, you can't just do Mortal Draw in place, because she has another quick swing that she can hit you with while you're charging. But yeah, ultimately, you don't have to fight her for too long. Then we run through the Headless Cave. That's another hook jump that I was attempting. You can get over there without needing to grapple over, but that's kind of what it looks like if you miss it, where it kind of looks like you get stuck a little bit. There, you smack the chicken. If you smack the chicken, chicken never hits you. Drop down, grab the Yash. Jump to these branches. This is where we pick up the snap seeds. Then we're going to do this little branch skip to get us into the arena of the hardest boss in the game. Behold the hardest boss in the game. Farewell to the hardest boss in the game. You can pick up the Yash. Yeah, all jokes aside, just MD and Miss Noble's a joke. Here, as long as you jump to the right of this tree, this grapple is consistent. If you do miss it, it's a black screen. But that grapple is very consistent as long as you jump to the right of the tree. I don't know what that little hesitation was there. Yeah, for Mibu, you just run straight through. You can grapple over this guy. Take a dip in the water. Grapple up the bridge. And we are heading towards False Corrupted Monk. And we're going to do the usual snap seed with the Fistful of Ash Cheese. But we're just going to do it fast. So you hug the left here. And I will say, like, normally what I'm looking for to cue my first snap seed is kind of this pile of rocks over here. So, like, once I'm at or, like, somewhere past these piles of rocks, I know that my first snap seed will always reach her. So 1, 2, then I dash forward for the third. I mean, the ash at her feet, if you're a little too close, every so often the ash will like go through her. Also, if you choose to do this entire run without firecrackers, like the minimum I would say for a cozy monk cheese is like 5. You can get it with 4. But usually for like speedier speed runs, I will try to do it in 5. But also for this run, you have firecrackers, so if you don't end up having enough ash, then you can use firecrackers as well. It does the same thing. Here I did the same crouch thing as I did in the beginning, just crouch to pick up the stone. And then we idle back to the last consumed idol, which it's been a while, but the last idol was right next to Guardian Ape. Get the increased attack power. Oh, I guess I did grab Shinobi Eyes for this. Probably for the last couple. Oh, and then I grabbed that. But then I don't rest again for the extra spirit emblem. Nice job, Soupy. Anyways, Guardian Ape. We're gonna do first phase stagger loop. So to kind of explain this a little bit, for those that hadn't seen the last guide, what I'm doing is I buff with Yash, and then the moment that I see him start to get up, I make this jump towards him with Mortal Draw. And then he does a small stagger and a big stagger. So I will take this a little slower because I always say small stagger, big stagger, and I have no idea if people actually know what I'm talking about. So this is a small stagger. So like his head staggers a little bit to the right. And then this is a big stagger where his head staggers to the left. So whenever he small staggers, you want to keep attacking him. And eventually he does this big stagger. And when he does that, you attack twice. And then you wait. You want to try to time your attack so that way he doesn't get to move ideally. Because sometimes this will cause it to whiff. But you want to wait for both of his front paws to be on the ground before you key your next attack. Which will end up staggering him again. Sometimes he small staggers twice. That time he small staggered once. Fortunately with Yash, you don't need to do this for too long. What we're going to do for Guardian Ape Phase 2 is kind of a semi-script, I would say. It kind of depends on the RNG that you get. But you see I just buffed with Confetti. We're going to buff with Yash as he gets up. So here, normally what I'm looking for is I'm looking for him to do his scream. So we're standing right in front of him. So he's either going to scream or he's going to try to do... He's going to like arch back for a slash, basically. If he screams, you can attack once into him and do jumping MD to cancel out the scream. In this example, he doesn't do that first. He actually starts with this arch back combo. So you parry that first hit. This second hit, you have to be ready for... He kind of conceals this move tail a little bit. Parry that, 2 hits. Dash behind him, try to get 5 hits behind him. Dash back in front for the final slam. And then you can kind of aim Mortal Draw. Like, even though he doesn't have a head, he does still technically take more damage in the gash part where his head once was. And then in this case, I was able to greet another Mortal Draw for this kill. So this still ended up being fast, even though I didn't technically get the RNG that I wanted. Normally, you get the Scream, you cancel him out with Mortal Draw, and then he goes into that combo, and then you get a cozier kill, basically. But ultimately, that still worked out. So we grab the flower, and we are going to idle to the last consumed idol, which becomes Abandoned Dungeon, because that's the next place, that's the next idol that ends up getting lit up. The next place we have to go. And when we're here, we're going to upgrade our attack power one last time. And we are going to send it to the top of the castle. jump over this guy because he probably was going to try to attack me. Here you can actually take the underwater route, which I believe is faster. I like not to do it here because you have to deal with a lone shadow, and sometimes the lone shadow will attack you and sometimes he'll just fall off the plank. But I just elect to not take that 50-50. So I do that little light jump across the bridge. And you grapple across, grapple up. And then from this partition, you can grapple up to the wooden bridge that leads all the way to the top. You gotta jump to the side a little bit there because the lone shadow that throws a kunai can hit you. So here what I do is I buff with Yash outside of the arena. That way the buff will carry into the arena. You want to make sure you don't do confetti just yet, because the confetti will go away when Sekiro sheaths his sword. And now we are into Emma. So the ultimate goal for this fight, again, is you want to get her into kind of a 1-2 pattern where you attack into her guard, she tries to do a counter that you deflect, you attack her again, she counters, and then you just try to keep that going over and over again. And then you just watch out to a couple of the ways that she tries to break out of it. She has a grab, she has a sweep, she can try to flurry attack you. And overall, if you have any distance on Emma, you want to try to let her take the initiative here, because she could do a chasing slice to catch you off guard. As far as this first attack, it's either one of her standard slashes. She'll do a chasing slash, which I think she does here. On rare occasions, she'll actually start with a leaping thrust, so always be ready for that. So that was a chasing slice. That's a grab, you can just rotate around it. See, like when she backs up like that, you want to wait to see if she's going to do anything. She just wound up the flurry, but I was able to cancel her out of it. And yeah, with Yash and Confetti, this usually won't go for too long. And now we go into Isshin, and this is an interesting Isshin fight. So again, just to reiterate the strat, basic idea is you just rush him down, don't give him any distance, don't let him idle, because that's when he can do some weird stuff. But as long as you're like constantly in combat with him, you can limit his moveset down to about like 4 different things that he can do, and then you can just flowchart your response to each of those things. But this ends up turning into an interesting phase 1. So you run at him, attack, starts this loop. So this right here, what he just did, you probably can't hear it because I have the volume on this turned down a little bit. He's actually talking during this first phase. Some enemies that talk at the start of their fight, they have the chance to cue the animation of an attack twice. So I've had this happen a couple of times with Ogre. I've had this happen a few times with Isshin. He's actually done the forbidden Ashina triple Ichimonji because I got Ichimonji during dialogue and then he wound it up again and did an Ichimonji double. But in this case, he ended up sheathing his sword twice. So that's what this is. It's not entirely normal. I don't know if I probably put this in a blurb in the last guide, but I didn't actually get to show it. Whenever you get these sweeps, whenever you like parry his first attack and then he sweeps, always charge up a thrust attack. If you try to jump this, some weird things can happen on occasions. Like you never want to jump stomp this, and then I found that even if you're not jump stomping, you can get some weird sidestep memes. Fuck. So always charge up a thrust there. That's a push to Mikiri. And then this is the third thing of note. This is I also mentioned kind of in a blurb on the last guide. Whenever you get the death blow with a Mikiri, you have to go right for the jumping mortal draw. You cannot rebuff with the Yash. Because unlike with an attack death blow or a deflect death blow, he ends up recovering faster from this. So I wouldn't be able to rebuff here before he does one mind. Then in second phase, you can jump the sweep for a Mortal Draw. Ultimately, not rebuffing doesn't really matter, because you're just spamming Mortal Draw anyways. And that is Sekiro Shura ending. Done without getting hit, and done pretty fast. I just said, fuck you, Isshin, you're not gonna meme me this time. Yeah, he's caught me with a couple of funky quirks. So he gets a little teabag. But yes, I hope that you guys found this guide to be useful. If you'd like to see some more stuff like this in the future, be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I have been thinking of wanting to do this for like Dark Souls 3 and show kind of the way that I choose to approach that game. So if you want to see more stuff like this, be sure to let me know. Be sure to subscribe for more challenge running content, hitless running content. Also follow me on Twitch. This is where I'm usually doing a bunch of my hitless runs. Pretty much anything. And that's the final time, 37:32. So with all that said, take care, much love to you all. I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.